This is how you lift it. Sumo deadlift high pull.
All right guys, welcome back to CrossFit LoDo. My name is Ryan. I'm gonna be doing some coaching and cueing today. My athlete, as always, Donnie, is gonna be doing some lifting. Today we're gonna be going over one of our 9 foundational movements called the Sumo deadlift high pull. Donnie, go ahead and give us a couple Sumo deadlift high pulls, please. So again, that's our Sumo deadlift high pull. That's what it's gonna look like fully executed, but now we're gonna break it down a bit. First things first, we have to set up properly. There's 2 unique things to the Sumo deadlift high pull compared to any other lift that we do in our foundational movements. The first is the stance is gonna be very wide. That's the Sumo part of this lift. So he's gonna kick his feet out twice as wide as they normally are. The other piece in the setup, his hands are gonna be very close, closer than any other lift that we do. As you can see, as Donnie goes down, he touches his thumbs and then wraps them around. Again, very close grip as far as what we usually do gripping the bar. At this point, he's now setting up just like in a deadlift. His shoulders are above his hips, which are above his knees. He's now ready to pull it off the floor. But to execute the lift, we're gonna practice what's called just a deadlift first. So Donnie, go ahead and give me a couple deadlifts. Big thing to note here, you guys, that bar staying nice and close to his body. His hip and bar are moving at the same rate. He's just taking it from the ground to his pockets and then setting it back down on the floor. The next step in our progression is going to be deadlift with extension. Donnie, go ahead and give me a couple deadlifts with extension. Big thing to notice here, guys, that bar's staying nice and tight to his body. Other thing, that bar's moving a little bit faster around his hip. He's popping those hips and shrugging his shoulder. That's going to encourage that vertical movement of the bar, which leads us into our last step, which is deadlift plus extension plus a high elbow, finishing off the lift. Donnie, go ahead and give us a couple more Sumo deadlift high pulls, please. Notice that barbell staying nice and tight to his body. His elbows are staying above and behind the bar. This transfers really well into our snatch, into our clean, takes away that need to catch the bar and teaches us that quarter extremity speed, which will transfer into those lifts. That's our Sumo deadlift high pull. Practice it a lot if you're having trouble, especially in your power clean and your power snatch. It will get you some speed around your hip.
Going further.
All right guys, going a bit further into the Sumo deadlift high pull, we're gonna look at a couple common faults and then some fixes to those faults. So if you have athletes that aren't moving well, you can clean them up quick. Donnie, go ahead and give us a couple good Sumo deadlift high pulls. Watch his hips as they fully extend here, guys. We're gonna introduce the common fault of muted hip function. Watch how differently his hips move with a muted hip function now. Now, a couple things should become apparent from that change in his hip. First of all, his shoulders never get behind the bar. That keeps the bar a little bit too far out in front. The other thing, the whole reason we're doing this movement is to learn hip extension into that moving barbell. If your athlete looks like this, the best thing to do is take them back to the second step in our progression, that deadlift with extension. So, what I would tell Donnie to do, go ahead and set up as you normally do. I want you to squeeze your hips and shrug your shoulders at the top and feel that full hip extension. They absolutely have to be able to do that first before they go into that high elbow position. If they're still not squeezing the hips, use your tactile and verbal cues to get those hips to open up fully. As soon as you've seen some with that full open hip, they will then be ready to go ahead and give me a couple good ones, Donnie. Pop those hips, elevate the elbows. Again, that speed is coming from that fully open hip angle, shoulders getting all the way behind the bar. That allows that bar to stay nice and tight, transferring into our ollie lifts. There's our first fix.
Go, we need then further.
All right guys, going a bit further into our Sumo deadlift high pull, we're gonna look at a common fault called the early arm bend. First, I'm gonna have Donnie do a couple good Sumo deadlift high pulls. What you should be looking for is the hip fully extends before the arms pull. Always keeping that sequence together of quarter extremity that will transfer over to your Olympic lifts really well. What you're gonna see from a lot of athletes though is an early arm bend. Donnie, go ahead and give me a couple early arm bends. Now obviously Donnie's exaggerating that so that you guys can see it. However, the problem is Breaking that chain takes away energy from your hips. If your athlete looks like that, it will take a lot of practice taking them back to step 2 of the progression, learning that the hips extend before the elbows fold. So what that would look like, Donnie, go ahead and give me a couple deadlifts with extension, keeping the arms straight. Good, and again. Have your athlete do that a few times and then immediately go into the full movement. Donnie, go ahead and give me a couple full sumo deadlift high pulls. Now, that fixed the problem. Your athlete might not be that easy, but always bring them back to the last step, getting those hips to fire before the elbows fold, and then start putting it all together. That way, once you get into your power cleans and your power snatches, that will also happen, keeping the arm straight as long as possible, getting those hips involved in the movement of that barbell. That's our fault and fix. Early arm bend, get rid of that.